Walter Coleman's hands trembled as he gripped his wife's wheelchair. The bulldozers were already tearing down the fence. "Please, I can't go," he said, voice cracking. "My wife won't survive being moved." Sheriff Bradley wouldn't meet his eyes. The deputy reached for handcuffs. That's when the sound came. 12 Harley engines roaring up the driveway like thunder. The developer spun around, face pale. The hellsangels had arrived. And what they did next would make national headlines and change everything anyone thought they knew about the men in leather patches. Before we begin this story, we want to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. We love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you believe in standing up for what's right, hit that subscribe button and stay with us until the very end. You won't believe where this goes. The coffee in Walter Coleman's hand had gone cold 2 hours ago. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the eviction notice for the 100th time, the words blurring together. Final notice. Vacate immediately. Legal action authorized. 40 years in this house. 40 years of memories soaked into every floorboard, every wall. And now some developer in a $1,000 suit wanted to erase it all for a luxury resort. "Walter?" Esther's voice drifted from the bedroom, weak but steady. "What time is it?" He folded the paper and shoved it in his pocket. "Just after 7, sweetheart. You need anything?" "Just you." He found her sitting up in bed, the morning light catching the silver in her hair. The stroke had taken her left side 6 months ago, but her eyes, those eyes that had seen him through Korea, through raising 4 children, through burying their youngest son, those eyes still held fire. "They're coming today, aren't they?" she said. Walter knelt beside the bed, taking her good hand. "Yeah, they're coming." "And we're not leaving." "No, ma'am, we're not leaving." Esther squeezed his fingers. "Then I guess we go down with the ship, Captain." He tried to smile, but it came out wrong. Beats drowning in some nursing home where nobody knows your name. Outside, gravel crunched. Vehicles. Multiple vehicles. Walter kissed Esther's hand and stood, squaring his shoulders. "Stay here. I'll handle this." "Walter Coleman, you're not handling anything without me." She reached for the wheelchair. "Help me up." By the time they made it to the front porch, the yard was full. 2 sheriff's cruisers, 3 trucks with the developer's logo, and a news van. Sheriff Tom Bradley stepped out first, hat in hand, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "Walt," he said quietly, "don't make this harder than it has to be." "Hard?" Walter's voice carried across the yard. "You want to talk about hard, Tom? Hard is watching your wife relearn how to hold a fork. Hard is knowing that moving her could kill her. Hard is building a life for 40 years just to have some suit decide it's worth more empty than full." David Harrington stepped forward, silk tie perfect despite the cold. "Mr. Coleman, this is a legal matter. The foreclosure was processed according to documents I never signed," Walter interrupted. "According to a loan I never took out. According to a judge who rushed it through so fast my lawyer didn't even get to present evidence." Harrington's smile was all teeth, no warmth. "That's what appeals are for. But today you need to vacate the property. The bulldozers arrive in 30 minutes. "Then they'll have to go through me." A deputy shifted uncomfortably. Bradley sighed. "Walt, I don't want to arrest you, but I will if I have to." "Then do it." Walter moved to stand in front of Esther's wheelchair. "But you're arresting a decorated veteran who served this country when half these boys weren't even born. You're arresting a man protecting his dying wife." "And those cameras over there?" He pointed at the news crew. "They're going to make sure everyone knows it." The deputies looked at each other. One was young, couldn't have been more than 25. The other, Miguel Rodriguez, had been to the Coleman house for barbecues, had eaten Esther's apple pie, had called Walter Sir like he meant it. "Sheriff," Miguel said quietly, "maybe we could—" "There's no maybe," Harrington snapped. "The law is the law. Execute the eviction, or I'll have your badges." That's when they heard it. Low at first, like distant thunder, then building, building, until the ground itself seemed to vibrate. Motorcycles. Lots of them. The first bike crested the hill, chrome catching the morning sun like a warning. Then another. And another. 12 Harleys in formation, engines roaring, rolling down the driveway in perfect precision. Every single rider wore the same patches. Hell's Angels Millbrook chapter. The lead rider killed his engine and dismounted. He was massive. 6'4", 250 easy, gray beard braided, arms covered in ink. The patch on his back read Reaper above the president's rocker. He pulled off his helmet and surveyed the scene with eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. "Sheriff," Reaper said, voice like gravel. "Morning." Bradley's hand moved to his sidearm. "Marcus, this doesn't concern you." "See, that's where you're wrong." Reaper walked forward slowly, deliberately. "That man there?" He pointed at Walter. 10 years ago, my bike broke down on Route 7. Middle of summer, 100 degrees. I'm stranded. This man didn't know me, didn't ask questions about my patches. Drove up, gave me water, helped me fix a blown gasket. Wouldn't take a dime. Just said, "We all need help sometimes." So yeah, Tom, this concerns me. The other bikers had dismounted now, forming a loose line behind their president. Harrington's face went red. "This is private property." "Being stolen," Reaper interrupted. "I read the news, Mr. Harrington. I know what you did. Forged documents, bribed officials, rushed foreclosures. You're real good at crushing people who can't fight back." "Those are lies. Slander. I'll sue." "Sue away." Reaper turned to Walter. "Sir, with your permission, my brothers and I would like to make sure nobody forces you out of your home today." Walter stared at this mountain of a man, this stranger who'd remembered a simple kindness from a decade ago. "Son, you do that, they'll arrest you too." "Been arrested before, probably will be again. But I've never been arrested for doing the right thing. So there's that." Esther's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Young man, come here, please." Reaper approached the wheelchair, and something in his posture changed. He knelt, bringing himself eye level with her, and his voice gentled. "Ma'am." "You understand what you're offering," Esther said. "This isn't just about today. This could go on for weeks, months." "And these men," she gestured at Harrington and his crew, "they have money, lawyers, power. All we have is stubbornness and a mortgage that should have been paid off 20 years ago." "Ma'am, I understand. But see, me and my brothers, we took an oath when we got these patches. It's not just about riding together. It's about protecting our own. And right now, you're our own." Esther studied his face for a long moment. Then she smiled. "What's your Christian name, son?" "Marcus. Marcus Stone." "Well, Marcus Stone, I hope you like coffee, because we're going to be here a while." Harrington's voice went shrill. "Sheriff Bradley, I'm ordering you to remove these men and execute this eviction immediately, or I'll have you removed from office." Bradley looked at Walter, at Esther, at the 12 bikers who'd planted themselves like oak trees. He looked at Miguel, who was quietly shaking his head. He looked at the news camera that was recording everything. "Mr. Harrington," Bradley said slowly. I'm going to need to verify the paperwork one more time before I proceed. Come down to the station with me. The paperwork is verified. The court can wait 30 minutes while I do my due diligence. Let's go. As Bradley herded Harrington toward the cruiser, the developer's voice carried back. This isn't over. I own this town. I'll have every one of you destroyed. The cruisers pulled away. The developer's trucks followed. Only the news van remained, camera still rolling. Reaper stood and turned to his crew. Bulldozer, Phoenix, set up a perimeter. Ghost, Nitro, get the supplies from the bikes. We're hunkering down. A biker with a shaved head and a scar across his jaw, Bulldozer, grinned. Just like Fallujah, Prez. Better. We're defending something worth defending this time. Walter watched the bikers move with military precision, spreading out around the property, pulling camping gear and coolers from their saddlebags. It was surreal. Impossible. Yesterday he'd been alone, facing an army of lawyers and bulldozers. Today he had 12 Hell's Angels setting up camp in his front yard. Mr. Coleman? A younger biker approached, maybe 30, with kind eyes and Phoenix tattoos wrapping both arms. Name's Danny. Everyone calls me Phoenix. Where's your property line? Walter pointed. Fence runs along that tree line, down to the creek, back up to the road. Got it. We'll make sure nobody crosses it without your say-so. As Phoenix jogged off, another biker appeared. Smaller, wiry, with eyes that didn't miss anything. His patch read, Ghost. Sir? Ma'am? Ghost said. I used to do security contracting. Mind if I assess your vulnerabilities? They're going to come back with a plan, and we need to be ready. Vulnerabilities, Walter repeated. Son, we're two old people in a farmhouse. We're all vulnerability. Nah, you've got high ground, single access road, thick tree cover on 3 sides. Defensively, it's solid. We just need to make sure they can't cut power or water without us knowing. Esther laughed, a sound Walter hadn't heard in months. I never thought I'd hear a biker talk about my house like it's the Alamo. Ghost smiled. Ma'am, the Alamo fell. This place won't. By noon, the transformation was complete. The bikers had set up a command post near the barn, complete with radios, phones charging from portable batteries, and a detailed map of the property. They'd reinforced the fence, set up motion sensors on the driveway, and established patrol routes. It looked less like a home and more like a forward operating base. Walter brought out coffee, hands still shaking slightly. Reaper accepted the mug with a nod. You didn't have to do this, Walter said. Yeah, I did. Reaper sipped the coffee, closed his eyes appreciatively. Your wife makes good coffee. She makes everything good. That's why I can't lose her to some hospital where she'll just fade. Walter's voice cracked. The doctors said the stress of moving could trigger another stroke. A fatal one. So if they drag us out of here, they're killing her. And Harrington knows it. He just doesn't care. Reaper's jaw tightened. We care, and we're not going anywhere. A phone buzzed. Bulldozer jogged over. Prez, we got a problem. News is reporting that developer called the governor. Says we're an armed occupation force. State police are being mobilized. Armed? We left the hardware at the clubhouse. We're clean. Doesn't matter. He's spinning it. Says we're threatening violence, holding the Colemans hostage, the whole 9 yards. Reaper swore under his breath. Then he looked at the news van, still parked at the property line. Time to spin it back. Get that reporter over here. 5 minutes later, Sarah Chen from Channel 7 News stood with her cameraman, microphone ready. Reaper stood beside Walter and Esther's wheelchair, flanked by his crew. Miss Chen, Reaper began. I want to make something crystal clear. We are not armed. We are not violent. We are not holding anyone hostage. We are American citizens exercising our constitutional right to peaceful assembly in defense of a decorated veteran and his disabled wife who are being illegally evicted from their home. The camera stayed on him as he continued. Mr. Coleman served in Korea. He bled for this country. He came home, built a life, raised a family, paid his taxes, obeyed the law. And now a developer, using forged documents, is trying to steal his land. Where we come from, you don't abandon your brothers. You don't let bullies win. And you damn sure don't let an old soldier get crushed by greed. Sarah's eyes were sharp. Mr. Stone, the developer claims the foreclosure was legal. What evidence do you have that it wasn't? Walter leaned forward. I'll answer that. The signature on those loan documents? Not mine. I had a handwriting expert examine it. Not mine. The appraisal that claimed my house was worthless? Done by a company that's business partners with Harrington Development. The judge who rushed the foreclosure through? His son works for Harrington. This isn't legal. It's corruption with a legal stamp on it. Why didn't your lawyer present this evidence? He tried. The hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. He got the notice at 8:30. By the time he arrived, the judge had already ruled. Tell me how that's justice. Sarah turned to Esther. Mrs. Coleman, are you being held here against your will? Esther's laugh was sharp as glass. Honey, these boys couldn't make me leave if they tried. This is my home. My husband and I built this house with our own hands in 1985. We planted every tree in that yard. I taught my children to ride bikes on that driveway. I buried my son's ashes under that oak tree because he asked to always be home. Her voice strengthened. They want this land? They'll have to drag me out. And I promise you, sweetheart, I won't go quiet. The interview went viral within an hour. #StandWithColeman started trending. Veterans groups began mobilizing. Disability advocates called for investigations. The governor's office released a statement. Concerned citizens have the right to peaceful protest. However, law enforcement will ensure all parties comply with legal orders. Legal orders. That was the problem. The order was legal, even if everything behind it was corrupt. As sunset painted the sky orange, Bulldozer pulled Reaper aside. Prez, we got another situation. 3 of the other chapters called. They want to send support. How many? Phoenix Rising chapter says they can have 20 riders here by morning. Tucson can send 15. Vegas is mobilizing 25. Reaper looked at the farmhouse, at the old couple visible through the window sharing dinner, at his brothers scattered around the property keeping watch. Tell them yes, but same rules. No weapons, no aggression, nothing the cops can use against us. We're peaceful, we're legal, and we're not backing down. They ask how long we're here for? Reaper smiled grimly. However long it takes. Inside, Walter sat across from Esther, picking at his food. You think we're doing the right thing? Letting these boys put themselves at risk for us? Esther reached across the table with her good hand. I think Marcus Stone remembered a kindness you showed him 10 years ago. I think sometimes God sends angels wearing different uniforms than we expect. And I think if we're going to go down, we might as well go down surrounded by people who believe standing up for what's right still matters. Walter squeezed her hand. I love you, Esther Coleman. I love you too, you stubborn old coot. Outside, engines rumbled as Phoenix and Ghost completed another patrol. The motion sensors blinked green. The radios crackled with check-ins every 30 minutes, and somewhere in the darkness, a news helicopter circled, camera capturing everything. Tomorrow would bring more pressure, more threats, more legal maneuvers and media spin. But tonight, for the first time in months, Walter and Esther Coleman slept peacefully, knowing they weren't facing the machine alone. The hellsangels kept watch, brothers in leather standing guard over a love that had lasted 60 years, over a home that meant everything, over a principle that once lost could never be recovered. The battle had just begun, but they were ready. Dawn broke with the sound of thunder, not weather, motorcycles. 60 more of them, roaring up the driveway in waves. Chapter Tucson, Chapter Vegas, Chapter. The yard filled with chrome and leather, brothers greeting brothers with clasped forearms and silent nods. Walter stood on the porch, coffee forgotten in his hand. Sweet Jesus. Reaper walked up beside him. Told you, sir. You're not alone. A massive biker from Phoenix dismounted, beard gray as smoke, eyes hard as flint. His patch read, Hammer, President. He gripped Reaper's hand. Brother. Appreciate you coming, Hammer. Veteran getting screwed? We ride. Simple as that. Hammer turned to Walter, snapped a crisp salute. Sir. Master Sergeant James Hammond, USMC, retired. We're here as long as you need us. Walter returned the salute, throat tight. Army First Lieutenant Walter Coleman, Korea. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just point us where you need us. By 8 a.m., the property looked like a military encampment. 82 bikers total, organized into shifts, patrols established, communication systems networked. Esther watched from the window, shaking her head in wonder. 40 years we've lived here, she said to Walter. 40 years of neighbors who smiled and waved, and didn't lift a finger when Harrington came knocking. These men don't even know us, and they're ready to go to jail for us. Maybe that's what brotherhood looks like when it's real. The news vans multiplied like rabbits, 6 of them now, cameras filming everything. National networks, cable news, even international press. The story had exploded. Veteran faces eviction, biker gang stands guard. The optics were gold. At 9 a.m., 3 black SUVs rolled up. Not sheriff's department. Federal license plates. Men in suits emerged, earpieces visible. The lead agent approached the property line, holding up credentials. Marcus Stone, FBI Special Agent Robert Fletcher. Need to ask you some questions. Reaper walked to the fence. Am I under arrest? Not yet, but occupying private property during a legal eviction could constitute. This isn't an occupation, Walter called out, walking down to join them. These men are my invited guests. Last I checked, I can have guests on my own property. Fletcher's expression didn't change. Mr. Coleman, the property is under court-ordered seizure. You're in violation of a fraudulent order, a woman's voice cut through. Young, sharp, carrying authority. A silver sedan had pulled up behind the SUVs. The woman who emerged wore a sharp suit and carried a briefcase like a weapon. Special Agent Fletcher, my name is Jennifer Bradley. I'm an attorney representing Mr. Coleman. And before you proceed, you should know that we've filed an emergency motion to stay the eviction pending investigation of fraudulent documents. Fletcher frowned. Who are you with? Veterans Legal Defense Fund, pro bono. And I have evidence that the loan documents used to justify this foreclosure contain forged signatures, falsified dates, and notarization from a notary who's been disbarred for 3 years. The entire foreclosure is built on fraud. Reaper glanced at Walter, who looked equally stunned. Who called you? Jennifer smiled. My father, Sheriff Tom Bradley. He spent all night reviewing the case files and called me at 4 a.m. Said he couldn't sleep knowing he was about to evict an innocent man. The FBI agent's radio crackled. He stepped away, speaking quietly. When he returned, his tone had shifted. Mr. Coleman, The Bureau is going to conduct its own investigation into the foreclosure. Until that's complete, we're advising local law enforcement to hold off on any eviction action." Harrington's voice boomed from behind the news vans. "That's unacceptable!" He stormed forward, face purple with rage, flanked by his own lawyers. "This is obstruction of justice. These bikers are criminals. They're—" "Standing on private property with the owner's permission," Jennifer interrupted. "While you, Mr. Harrington, are about to be served with a restraining order." She pulled papers from her briefcase. "These documents show a pattern of predatory lending, forgery, and corruption across 12 other properties in this county alone. The state attorney general is very interested in your business practices." Harrington's lawyer grabbed his arm, whispered urgently. Harrington jerked away. "You can't prove anything." "Can't I?" Jennifer held up a folder. "Deposition from Sandra Mills, former employee of Harrington Development. She's willing to testify that you instructed her to falsify loan applications and rush foreclosures through Judge Warren, who, coincidentally, is your business partner in 3 separate LLCs. That's fraud, Mr. Harrington. Federal fraud." The developer's face went white. He turned and stormed back to his SUV, lawyers scrambling after him. As the convoy sped away, the bikers erupted in cheers. Bulldozer slapped Reaper's back. "Prez, we just won!" "No." Reaper's voice was quiet, eyes still on the disappearing vehicles. "We just made him desperate. And desperate men do stupid things." He was right. At noon, the power cut. Every light, every heater, everything. Gone. Phoenix checked the breaker. "Line's been cut. Clean slice. Professional job." An hour later, the water stopped. Then the phone lines went dead. Cell signal jammed somehow. They were being isolated, cut off from the world. Ghost jogged up to Reaper. "Prez, we got a problem. One of the news vans picked up chatter on police scanner. Anonymous tip called in saying we're armed and holding hostages. SWAT teams being mobilized." "Jesus Christ." Reaper spun to Hammer. "Get everyone visible, hands up, vests open. Nothing they can misinterpret. Now!" Within minutes, every biker stood in the front yard, hands raised, jackets open showing no weapons. The news cameras captured it all. When the SWAT van arrived 30 minutes later, they found 82 men in full compliance, not a weapon in sight. The SWAT commander, a grizzled veteran named Morrison, stepped out and surveyed the scene. He looked at the bikers, at the cameras, at Walter standing on his porch beside his wheelchair-bound wife. He keyed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Morrison. Anonymous tip is unfounded. No hostages, no weapons, no threat. Advise calling unit was false report. We're code 4. As SWAT packed up to leave, Morrison approached Reaper. "Semper Fi, brother." Reaper's eyebrows rose. "You served?" 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, Fallujah." Morrison nodded toward Walter. "That man's a veteran?" "Korea." Morrison's jaw set. "Then he's earned the right to die in his own home. You boys watch yourselves. Someone's playing dirty." After SWAT left, Bulldozer pulled Reaper aside. The big man's hands were shaking. "Prez, I need to tell you something about why this matters to me." "Talk to me." 15 years ago, I was working construction in Phoenix. My mama, she had a little house in Mesa. Paid off, her name on the deed, everything legal. Then some developer wanted the block for condos. Bulldozer's voice cracked. They did the same thing. Forged papers, fake loans, rushed foreclosure. I tried to fight it, hired lawyers, filed appeals. But I was working class, no money, no power. They took her house. 3 months later, she was in a nursing home. 6 months after that, she was dead. He looked at Walter and Esther through the window. I couldn't save my mama, but I can damn sure save them. Reaper gripped his brother's shoulder. Then that's what we do. Inside, Esther was struggling. The cold was getting to her. Without heat, her body couldn't regulate temperature properly. Her lips had taken on a blue tinge. Walter wrapped her in every blanket they owned, but it wasn't enough. Phoenix knocked softly. Ma'am, we've got portable heaters in the support trucks, and I called a doctor friend of mine. She's on her way. You don't have to. Yes, ma'am, we do. When Dr. Sarah Kim arrived an hour later, she brought not just medical supplies, but generators, space heaters, and food. I saw the news, she said, examining Esther's vitals. What they're doing to you is unconscionable. Your blood pressure's elevated, heart rate irregular. This stress could kill you. Walter's face crumpled. I know. But what choice do we have? Leave and she dies in some hospital. Stay and they drag us out anyway. Sarah pulled out her phone. I'm documenting everything. Medical records, photos, expert testimony. When this goes to court, and it will, I'll testify that moving Mrs. Coleman constitutes life-threatening risk. That makes this eviction not just illegal, but potentially criminal. Esther took Sarah's hand. Why are you helping us, dear? You don't know us. My grandparents were forced from their home during the war. Japanese internment camps. They lost everything. I grew up hearing about what happens when power crushes the powerless. Sarah's eyes flashed. Never again. Not on my watch. By evening, the property had transformed. Community members started arriving. The pastor from First Baptist brought food. The VFW showed up with camping gear and American flags. Local businesses donated supplies. High school kids formed a human chain, passing boxes of provisions over the fence. Maria Santos, who ran the corner grocery, pressed an envelope into Walter's hands. From the neighborhood collection. $3,000 for legal fees. Walter tried to refuse. Maria, I can't. You can, and you will. My husband and I, we came here with nothing 30 years ago. This community gave us everything. Now we give back. That's what neighbors do. As darkness fell, someone started singing. A veteran, older than Walter, voice rough but strong. God bless America. Others joined. Soon 200 voices filled the night, melody rising like prayer. Esther cried. Walter held her. And the Hell's Angels, these men who'd seen war and violence and darkness, stood with hands over hearts, tears streaming unashamed. Phoenix found Reaper standing alone near the barn. Prez, you good? My grandmother, Reaper said quietly. She raised me after my folks died. Lived in a little house in Detroit. When I was 17, the city seized it for unpaid taxes she didn't owe. Bureaucratic error, they said later, after they'd already sold it. She moved in with us, but it killed something in her. Died 6 months later. He looked at the house. I was too young, too stupid, too powerless to fight back then. I'm not anymore. We're going to win this, Prez. We better. Because if we don't, what's the point of any of it? The patches, the brotherhood, the code. It's all meaningless if we can't protect the people who need it most. At midnight, Ghost's radio crackled. Prez, we got movement on the north perimeter. Reaper and 6 others moved silently through the darkness. They found a man in expensive hiking gear, planting something near the property line. Bulldozer tackled him before he could run. The device he'd been planting was a camera, pointed at the house with what looked like recording equipment. The man squirmed. Get off me! This is assault! Reaper knelt down. Who sent you? I'm not telling you anything. Ghost checked the man's wallet. License says David Harrington, Jr. Let me guess. Daddy sent you to gather dirt for the media? The younger Harrington sneered. My father's going to destroy all of you. He owns this town. The mayor, the judges, the police chief. You're done. Maybe. Reaper stood, pulling Harrington to his feet. But we're taking you to Sheriff Bradley. Let him sort out the trespassing charges. When Bradley arrived, he looked exhausted. Marcus, I need you to understand something. I got a call from the governor's office tonight. They're sending state police tomorrow at dawn, with orders to clear this property by any means necessary. I can't stop it. Can't or won't? Bradley's voice hardened. Can't. And if you're smart, you'll convince these people to leave peacefully before someone gets hurt. And if we're not smart? Then I'll be arresting friends tomorrow, and I'll hate myself for it. But I'll do it. After Bradley left, Reaper gathered everyone. You all heard. Tomorrow it ends, one way or another. If anyone wants to leave, no judgment. You've done more than enough. Nobody moved. Hammer spoke for everyone. We're staying, brother. All of us. Walter stood on the porch, Esther beside him in her wheelchair. Boys, I can't ask you to get arrested for us. You're not asking, Phoenix said. We're offering. Why? Walter's voice broke. Why would you sacrifice so much for strangers? Bulldozer stepped forward. Because my mama was a stranger to you too, and you would have helped her if you could. Because that's what decent people do, and there's not enough decent people left to waste any. The night stretched long. People dozed in shifts. The community vigil continued, hundreds of candles flickering like stars. News helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting live. At 3 a.m., Esther woke Walter. Honey, I need you to promise me something. Anything. If they take me tomorrow, if they drag me out, and I don't make it, I need you to know it was worth it. Fighting back, standing up. Even if we lose, we showed them we're not cattle to be herded. We're human beings with dignity. That matters. Walter kissed her forehead. We're not losing. Not tomorrow. Not ever. But even as he said it, he could hear them in the distance. Diesel engines, heavy equipment, moving into position. The bulldozers were coming. The first bulldozer crested the hill at 5:47 a.m., headlights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness like accusatory fingers. Then another, and another, 5 of them total, engines growling, treads churning up gravel. Behind them came the convoy, state police cruisers, SWAT vans, command vehicles, a small army descending on a farmhouse. Reaper stood at the property line, arms crossed. Behind him, 82 bikers formed the human wall. Behind them, 200 community members who'd stayed through the night. And behind them all, Walter and Esther Coleman, watching from the porch. The state police commander emerged from the lead vehicle, bullhorn in hand. This is Commander Warren Ellis, Maryland State Police. You are all in violation of a court order to vacate this property. You have 5 minutes to disperse or face arrest. Nobody moved. 4 minutes. Walter squeezed Esther's hand. Stay here, sweetheart. Walter, don't. But he was already moving, walking into the house with purpose she recognized. 2 minutes later, he emerged, wearing something he hadn't touched in 40 years. His army dress uniform, medals across the chest, brass polished to mirror shine, the fabric tight across shoulders that had thickened with age, but still carried themselves with military bearing. The news cameras swung toward him immediately. Walter walked slowly down the porch steps, past the bikers, past the community members, straight to the property line where Commander Ellis stood. He stopped 3 feet away and stood at attention. "Commander Ellis," Walter said, voice steady and clear. "First Lieutenant Walter Coleman, United States Army, Korea, 1952 to 1955. I led a platoon at Pork Chop Hill. Lost 17 men in 3 days. Watched boys younger than most of your officers bleed out in frozen mud, calling for mothers who'd never see them again." He paused, letting the weight settle. "I came home to this country they died for. Built this house with my own hands. Raised 4 children here. Buried one of them under that oak tree when cancer took him at 23. And now you want to drag me out because some rich man forged documents and bribed a judge?" Ellis shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, I understand your situation, but I have orders." "I had orders too, Commander. I followed them. Even when they meant sending good men into meat grinders. Even when I knew some wouldn't come back. I followed them because I believed in something bigger than myself. I believed in a country where the law protects people, not punishes them. Where justice means something." Walter's voice cracked, but didn't break. "If that's not the country we have anymore, then maybe I fought for nothing. Maybe those 17 boys died for nothing." A young state trooper, couldn't have been older than 25, wiped his eyes. Ellis looked at his watch. 30 seconds. Esther's wheelchair appeared beside Walter. Phoenix had pushed her down. She looked up at Ellis with eyes that had seen too much sorrow to fear anything anymore. "Commander," she said quietly, "I had a stroke 6 months ago. My doctors have documented that the stress of being forcibly removed from my home could trigger a fatal cardiovascular event. So if you drag me out of here, you're executing me. Is that the order you want to follow?" Ellis's face went pale. His hand trembled on the bullhorn. Harrington's voice cut through from behind the police line. "Commander Ellis, execute the order now, or I'll have your badge." Ellis turned, fury flashing. "Mr. Harrington, you don't have the authority to. The governor gave me authority. I own half this state. Now move them!" The commander's jaw clenched. He raised the bullhorn. "Time's up. Officers, prepare to—" "Wait!" Jennifer Bradley sprinted from the news area, waving papers. "Commander Ellis, emergency stay from the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals. Eviction is suspended pending full investigation." Harrington snatched the papers from her, read them, then crumpled them and threw them down. "This is garbage. Some liberal judge trying to delay the inevitable. I don't care what it says. This property is mine, and I want these people removed." "Actually," Jennifer said calmly, "it's 3 judges. Conservative, moderate, and liberal. Unanimous decision. And they've ordered an immediate investigation into your business practices across the entire state. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit is executing search warrants at your offices right now." The color drained from Harrington's face. His lawyer grabbed his arm, whispered frantically. Harrington jerked away. "You can't do this to me. I have connections. The governor is currently being briefed on your relationship with Judge Warren," Jennifer interrupted. "Turns out those 3 LLCs you co-own together? One of them bought a beach house in the Bahamas last year. Cash purchase." "Very interesting, given that Judge Warren's official income is $140,000 a year." Ghost whistled low. "That's embezzlement territory." Harrington's face went from white to purple. "You people don't know who you're messing with. I will destroy every single one of you. The bikers, the old people, the lawyers, all of you." "Threatening witnesses?" Jennifer pulled out her phone, recording. "Please, keep going. The prosecutors will love this." That's when Harrington snapped. He turned to the bulldozer operators, screaming, Start the machines! Run the fence! I don't care about the stay. This is my land, and I want it cleared." The lead operator, a thick-shouldered man named Curtis, looked at Ellis. "Commander?" Ellis held up the stay order. "This is a legal document from a federal appeals court. If you proceed, you're in contempt." "I'll pay your legal fees," Harrington shrieked. "I'll pay everything. Just do it!" Curtis climbed into the cab. The engine roared to life. The community gasped. Bikers tensed. Walter pulled Esther's wheelchair back protectively. The bulldozer lurched forward, blade lowering toward the fence. Then Curtis cut the engine. He opened the cab door and climbed down, walking away from the machine. "No, sir. I'm not doing it." "What?" Harrington grabbed his arm. "I'll double your rate. Triple it." Curtis shook him off. "I'm a veteran, Mr. Harrington. 3rd Infantry Division, Iraq. That man there," he pointed at Walter, "he's wearing the same uniform I wore. And I'll be damned if I tear down a brother's home for your profit." He looked at the other operators. "Who's with me?" One by one, they climbed out of their machines and walked away. All 5 of them. Harrington stood there, shaking with rage, as his entire operation collapsed. "You're all fired, every single one of you." "Good," Curtis called back. "I needed an excuse to quit anyway." The state police began packing up. Ellis approached Walter, extending his hand. "Sir, I'm sorry for what you've been through. For what it's worth, I'm glad this worked out the way it did." Walter shook his hand. "Just doing your job, Commander. No hard feelings." As the police vehicles pulled away, the community erupted in cheers. People hugged, cried, celebrated. The bikers remained stoic, but Reaper's eyes shone with something that might have been tears. Then Esther made a small sound. Walter looked down. Her face had gone ashen, lips blue. "Esther? Esther!" She slumped in the wheelchair. Dr. Sarah Kim was there in seconds, fingers on her pulse, shouting orders. "Call 911, now! She's having another stroke!" The celebration died instantly. Paramedics who'd been staged nearby rushed over with equipment. Sarah worked fast, efficient, years of emergency medicine taking over. "BP's 180 over 110, pulse thready. We need to get her to the hospital, now." "No," Esther whispered, barely audible. "No hospital. Home." "Mrs. Coleman, you need immediate intervention, or you could die." "Then I die home." Her good hand found Walter's. "Not leaving." Sarah looked at Walter, who was crying openly now. "Mr. Coleman, she needs to be where she wants to be." Walter's voice was steel through tears. "Sarah, I'm begging you. Help her here. Whatever you can do, do it here." Sarah hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Get me inside. I need space to work." Phoenix and Bulldozer carried Esther's wheelchair into the house, moving with surprising gentleness. Sarah barked orders to the paramedics, who brought their equipment inside. The bikers formed a protective circle around the house, giving them privacy and quiet. Reaper found himself praying for the first time in 20 years. Inside, Sarah worked. IV lines, medications, monitoring equipment. For 30 minutes that felt like 30 hours, she fought to stabilize Esther's vitals. Walter held his wife's hand, whispering things meant only for her. Finally, Sarah stepped back, exhausted. "She's stable, for now. But Mr. Coleman, she needs to be in ICU. This was a warning shot. The next one could be fatal." "How long?" Walter asked. "Could be days, could be weeks. There's no way to know." Esther's eyes fluttered open. Her speech was slurred, but understandable. Worth it. Don't talk, sweetheart. Worth it. She smiled weakly. We won. We didn't win anything if I lose you. One dignity. One respect. One right to die our way. Her fingers squeezed his. Love you, stubborn old fool. Love you too. Walter kissed her forehead, his tears falling on her face. Outside, a car pulled up. Governor Patricia Morrison stepped out, flanked by state troopers and her press secretary. She was in her 60s, sharp-eyed, carrying herself with authority earned through decades in public service. Reaper met her at the property line. Governor. Mr. Stone, isn't it? I've been following this situation closely. She looked at the house, at the bikers, at the community members still gathered. I owe you all an apology. This should never have gotten this far. With respect, ma'am, apologies don't mean much if the system that allowed it is still broken. Agreed. Morrison pulled out her phone, made a call. Judge Warren? This is Governor Morrison. You're suspended from the bench effective immediately, pending investigation. Your law license is under review, and if even half of what I'm hearing is true, you'll be lucky if disbarment is the worst that happens. She hung up, made another call. Attorney General? I'm at the Coleman property. I want a full corruption task force. Every foreclosure Harrington touched, every judge he's connected to, every official who looked the other way. Tear it all open. She turned to Reaper. Mr. Stone, I'm issuing an executive order protecting the Coleman property from any seizure or sale for the next 12 months while this investigation proceeds. After that, I'll personally ensure they have ironclad legal protection. This property stays in their family, period. Thank you, Governor. Morrison's expression softened. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You and your brothers did what our system failed to do. You protected the innocent. That took courage I'm not sure I would have had. Jennifer emerged from the house. Governor Morrison, I'm Jennifer Bradley, counsel for the Colemans. I need to inform you that Mrs. Coleman just suffered another stroke. She's stable, but critical. Morrison's face fell. Can I see them? Inside, Walter sat beside Esther's bed, holding her hand. The governor approached quietly, respectfully. Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, I'm Governor Morrison. I came to tell you personally that what happened to you will never happen to another family in this state. I'm pushing emergency legislation to close every loophole Harrington exploited. Your fight, your courage, it's going to change things. Esther smiled weakly. Good. Make it mean something. I promise you, ma'am, it will. After Morrison left, the house grew quiet. Sarah had stabilized Esther, but warned she needed constant monitoring. The bikers organized themselves into medical support shifts, ensuring someone with first aid training was always present. As night fell, Bulldozer approached Reaper. Prez, we did it. We actually did it. Did we? Reaper looked at the house where Walter sat vigil. We saved the property. But she's dying, brother. Winning the fight doesn't mean much if we lose the war. She wanted to die here, on her terms. That's not losing. Phoenix joined them, unusually quiet. My grandmother, when they forced her into that nursing home, she lasted 3 weeks. Stopped eating, stopped talking, just faded. Like her soul knew she wasn't home anymore. He looked at the house. At least Mrs. Coleman got to make her own choice. At least she got to fight back. That's more than most people get. Ghost approached with his phone. Prez, you need to see this. The screen showed news coverage, national news. The story had gone viral. Veteran and disabled wife saved by bikers. Governor promises reform. The comment sections were flooded with support, with people sharing their own stories of corrupt foreclosures, of feeling powerless against systems designed to crush them. We started something, Ghost said. This is bigger than just the Colemans now. Reaper watched the coverage, feeling the weight of it. They'd come here to help one couple, but somehow, without meaning to, they'd lit a fuse. People were waking up, getting angry, demanding change. Inside, Walter dozed in the chair beside Esther's bed. She watched him sleep, this man who'd spent 60 years loving her, protecting her, choosing her every single day. She thought about the life they'd built, the children they'd raised, the battles they'd fought together. Her hand moved weakly, finding his. He woke instantly. Hey, sweetheart. Hey, yourself. Her voice was stronger, just slightly. We showed them, didn't we? Yeah, Esther. We showed them. Good, she smiled. Now I can rest. Don't talk like that. Walter, I'm tired. So tired. But I'm not scared anymore. We won. Not the property, not the money. We won us. Our dignity. Our right to go down swinging. He kissed her hand, tears streaming. I'm not ready to lose you. Then don't lose me. Keep me right here. She touched his chest, over his heart. I'll always be right here. Outside, the bikers kept their vigil. The community maintained their presence, and somewhere in the darkness, bulldozers sat silent and defeated. Monuments to the moment when ordinary people refused to be crushed. When brotherhood proved stronger than greed. When love outlasted everything else. The battle was won, but the night was far from over. 3 days passed like years. Esther hung between worlds, breathing but airily present, monitors beeping their steady rhythm in what used to be the dining room. Dr. Sarah Kim had converted it into a makeshift ICU, calling in favors from nurse friends who rotated shifts. The bikers maintained their vigil, quieter now, moving like ghosts through the property. Walter never left her side, didn't eat unless someone forced food into his hands, didn't sleep except in 15-minute snatches in the chair beside her bed. His uniform hung in the closet again, replaced by an old flannel shirt and the exhaustion of waiting. On the 4th morning, Esther's eyes opened. Actually opened, focused and clear. Walter? He jerked awake, nearly falling from the chair. Esther! Sarah! Sarah, she's awake! Dr. Kim rushed in, checking vitals with practiced efficiency. Mrs. Coleman, can you tell me where you are? Home. Esther's voice was weak but steady. I'm home. Where I'm supposed to be. Sarah's professional mask cracked into a smile. Yes, ma'am, you are. And your vitals look good. Better than good. Your blood pressure's normalizing, heart rate stable. Whatever was killing you before, the stress, the fear, it's not killing you anymore. Walter gripped Esther's hand so tight his knuckles went white. You scared the hell out of me, woman. Good. Keeps you on your toes. She smiled, then her expression shifted. We won? Yeah, sweetheart. We won. Then it was worth it. Outside, Reaper's phone rang. Jennifer Bradley, the lawyer.
he answered, already bracing for bad news because lawyers never called with good news. "Marcus, you need to sit down for this."
"Just tell me."
"Judge Warren's been arrested. Federal charges: bribery, fraud, conspiracy, money laundering. They raided his chambers and found records of 37 fraudulent foreclosures, all tied to Harrington Development. 37 families, Marcus. And that's just in this county."
Reaper closed his eyes. Jesus. There's more. Harrington's CFO flipped, gave prosecutors everything in exchange for immunity. Shell companies, offshore accounts, payoffs to building inspectors, zoning officials, even 2 state legislators. The whole operation's unraveling. What about Harrington himself? In custody, facing 43 federal counts. His lawyer's already trying to negotiate, but the prosecutors aren't interested. They want to make an example, show that rich men can't just buy the justice system. Can they make it stick? Jennifer's laugh was sharp. "Marcus, they have recorded phone calls of Harrington instructing subordinates to forge signatures. They have bank records showing transfers to Judge Warren's offshore accounts. They have testimony from 12 former employees. This isn't a case. It's a slam dunk. Harrington's going to prison. Real prison, not country club minimum security. 20 years minimum." Reaper let that sink in. And the Colemans? Their property is protected under new emergency legislation the governor pushed through yesterday. No foreclosure can proceed against elderly or disabled homeowners without independent medical and legal review. Plus, the state's setting up a victim restitution fund from Harrington's seized assets. The Colemans will get enough to cover all their legal fees, medical bills, and probably enough left over to fix up the house properly. When Reaper told Walter, the old man just nodded slowly. "Justice," he said. "Actual justice. Didn't think I'd see it in my lifetime." "You fought for it, sir. You earned it." "No." Walter looked at the bikers gathered in his yard, at the community members who'd stood vigil for days, at his wife sleeping peacefully for the first time in months. "We all fought for it. Every single person who refused to look away." The news coverage exploded again. National networks ran specials on the case. The Coleman story became a symbol. Ordinary people standing against corruption and winning. Letters poured in from across the country, from families who'd faced similar situations, from people who'd lost their homes to predatory developers, from those who'd never had anyone willing to fight for them. A week after Esther woke up, a caravan of trucks arrived. Construction crews, plumbers, electricians, roofers, all volunteers. A contractor named Mike Harris, who'd lost his mother's house to a similar scheme 5 years earlier, had organized them. "Mr. Coleman," Mike said, "you stood up when the rest of us didn't. Now we're standing up for you. We're going to fix everything Harrington broke, everything he damaged trying to force you out, and we're not charging a dime." Walter tried to protest, but Mike cut him off. "Sir, you gave people hope. Let us give you gratitude." The house transformed. New roof, fixed plumbing, updated electrical, fresh paint, things Walter and Esther couldn't afford in years. The workers sang while they labored, treating the project like a sacred duty. Phoenix helped install a new heating system, his construction background making him invaluable. "Mrs. Coleman," he said, "you're never going to be cold in this house again. I promise." Esther, stronger each day, sat in her wheelchair watching the work. "You boys are going to spoil us." "Good," Bulldozer called from the roof. "You deserve spoiling." 2 weeks in, Sheriff Tom Bradley showed up with his daughter Jennifer. They brought a framed proclamation from the town council. "Walt, Esther," Bradley said, voice thick. "The council voted unanimously. This property is now officially designated as Coleman Historical Homestead. It's protected heritage.
No developer can ever touch it again, no matter what. Walter shook his head in wonder. Tom, when this started, half the town thought we were crazy for fighting. Half the town was wrong, and they know it now. Bradley looked at the bikers working alongside contractors. You know what changed their minds? Watching these men they'd crossed the street to avoid, stand up for what's right when nobody else would. Made folks realize they'd been judging wrong, been seeing wrong. That afternoon, Maria Santos from the corner grocery organized a block party. Tables appeared in the yard loaded with food. Music played. Children ran through the grass laughing. And for the first time in months, Walter and Esther sat together watching their community celebrate not just victory, but transformation. Ghost approached Reaper, unusually emotional. Prez, I got something to tell you. I've been thinking about my daughter. Haven't seen her in 6 years. Not since her mother got custody and told me I was too dangerous, too unstable to be around her. You going to reach out? Yeah. Watching Mr.
Coleman with his wife, the way he fought for her, the way he never gave up, it made me realize I gave up too easy on my kid. Let her mother's words convince me I wasn't good enough. But if that old man can face down bulldozers for love, I can face down my own fear and fight for my daughter. Reaper gripped his shoulder. Do it, brother. And if you need backup, we're there. I know. That's why I can do it. 3 weeks after the standoff, Judge Warren's trial began. Jennifer Bradley invited Walter to attend. He went, Esther beside him in her wheelchair, pushed by Phoenix, who'd insisted on coming. The courtroom was packed. Families Warren had helped destroy filled the gallery. When the judge, a different judge brought in from another district, read the charges, the litany of crimes seemed endless. Warren's lawyer tried the expected defense. Your Honor, my client is a respected jurist with 30 years of service. A respected jurist, the prosecutor interrupted, who accepted $1. $2 million in bribes to fast-track illegal foreclosures, who destroyed families for profit, who betrayed every oath he ever took. She turned to the gallery. These people are here because Judge Warren sold their justice to the highest bidder, and the evidence is irrefutable. The trial lasted 3 days. The verdict took 45 minutes. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge allowed victim impact statements. 12 families spoke. Then Walter stood, gripping the rail for support. Your Honor, I'm not here to pile on. Judge Warren's going to prison, and that's justice. But I want to say something to everyone here. He turned to face the gallery. This happened because we let it. Because we trusted systems without watching them. Because we assumed the people in power were acting in good faith. They weren't. And they won't unless we force them to. My wife and I, we fought because we had no choice. But a lot of you did have choices, and you looked away. Until the hellsangels, men you'd been taught to fear, showed you what courage looks like. He pointed at Reaper and the bikers in the back row. Those men, they didn't know us, didn't owe us anything, but they saw wrong being done, and they stepped up. That's the lesson here. Not that the system worked. It didn't. The lesson is that ordinary people, when they refuse to be cowed, when they stand together, they're stronger than any corrupt judge or greedy developer. The gallery erupted in applause. The judge didn't even try to stop it. Warren got 18 years. Harrington got 23. The corrupt officials who'd enabled them got varying sentences, but all of them went to prison. Real prison. When Walter and Esther returned home, they found their front yard transformed. Someone had planted a garden.
Not just any garden, a memorial garden with a stone marker that read, "In honor of those who stand, Coleman Homestead, 2024. Esther cried. Good tears this time.
Walter, look at what we started. What we all started, he corrected. That night, Reaper gathered his brothers. We've been here a month. The fight's over. The Colemans are safe. It's time we headed back to the clubhouse. Bulldozer shook his head. Doesn't feel right leaving. We're not leaving. We're just giving them their lives back. That's what we fought for, remember? Their right to live in peace. The next morning, the bikers prepared to leave. Walter and Esther stood on the porch, Esther strong enough now to stand with a walker, watching these men who'd become family pack their gear. Reaper approached last. Sir, ma'am, it's been an honor. Walter pulled him into a hug, this decorated veteran embracing this patched biker like a son. Marcus Stone, you saved our lives. Not just our property, our lives, our dignity, our faith in people. You gave us something too, sir. You reminded us why we wear these patches. It's not about the bikes or the brotherhood for its own sake. It's about standing up for people who need it. You gave us purpose. Esther took Reaper's hand, pressing something into it. A small wooden cross, hand-carved. Walter made this. It's blessed. Keep it with you, son. You're doing God's work, whether you know it or not. Reaper's eyes glistened. Ma'am, I haven't been to church in 20 years. Doesn't matter. Church isn't a building. It's people choosing good over evil. You've been in church this whole time, Marcus. You just didn't recognize it. As the bikes fired up, the community gathered. Hundreds of people lining the driveway holding signs. Thank you, hellsangels. Real heroes wear leather. Brotherhood over greed. The bikers rode out slowly, engines rumbling like thunder, but softer somehow. Respectful. Phoenix looked back once, saw Walter and Esther waving from the porch, and something in his chest cracked open. Prez, he said over the comm. We changed something here, didn't we? Yeah, brother. We changed everything. Behind them, Walter held Esther close, both of them watching until the last bike disappeared over the hill. The house was quiet again. Their house. Their home. Protected, restored, blessed by the hands of strangers who'd become family. Think we'll see them again? Esther asked. I hope so. But even if we don't, they'll always be part of this place. Part of us. Inside, the house felt different. Warmer somehow, even beyond the new heating system. The walls held new stories now, new memories. The kind that remind you what's worth fighting for. That evening, Jennifer Bradley called. Mr. Coleman, I wanted you to know, the Victim Restitution Fund just cleared. You're getting $340,000. It should cover everything and then some. Walter sat down hard. Jennifer, that's more money than we've seen in our entire lives. It's your money, sir. Seized from Harrington's assets. Use it however you want. Fix the house. Take a vacation. Help your kids. It's yours. After hanging up, Walter told Esther. She was quiet for a long moment. You know what I want to do with it? She finally said. What's that, sweetheart? Start a fund. For other families fighting foreclosures, legal fees, medical bills, whatever they need. We'll call it the Hells Angels Justice Fund. Walter smiled. Reaper would love that. Then let's do it. Turn our pain into someone else's hope. And they did. 6 months later, the Hells Angels Justice Fund had helped 19 families fight illegal foreclosures. 19 victories against developers who thought money made them untouchable. The fund operated out of a small office in town, staffed by volunteers and overseen by Jennifer Bradley, who'd quit her corporate job to run it full-time.
"Walter, you need to see this," Jennifer said, holding up her phone.
They were in the Coleman's living room, now warm and bright with new windows and fresh paint. Esther sat beside him, stronger than she'd been in years, color back in her cheeks. The phone screen showed a news segment. A family in Ohio facing eviction had called the fund. Within 48 hours, they had legal representation, medical documentation, and a biker escort from the local Hells Angels chapter. The developer had backed down without a fight.
"That's the third one this week," Jennifer said. "Word's spreading. Developers are starting to think twice before pulling this kind of thing because they know we're watching. They know the angels will show up."
Walter shook his head slowly. "All because we refused to leave."
"No," Esther corrected gently. "All because Marcus and his brothers refused to let us fight alone."
At the Iron Haven clubhouse 90 miles away, Reaper stood before a room packed with bikers. Not just his chapter, representatives from 23 chapters across 6 states. The walls shook with energy and purpose. "Brothers," Reaper began. "6 months ago, we helped one old couple. Today, we're a national movement. Bikers Against Predatory Foreclosures. BAPF. We've got chapters in 31 states, legal teams on standby, and a hotline that gets 50 calls a day from families who need help." Hammer from Phoenix stood. "Prez, my chapter just got certified as official community advocates by the state. The governor herself signed the designation. Hell's Angels, official advocates. Never thought I'd see the day." "It's happening everywhere," Ghost added. "My daughter." His voice caught. He'd reconciled with her 2 months ago. Regular visits now, rebuilding trust. "My daughter's school invited me to talk about standing up for justice. Me, speaking at a middle school." Laughter rippled through the room, warm and genuine. Bulldozer raised his hand. "Prez, we got a situation brewing in Tennessee. Family of 4, disabled vet, same pattern as the Colemans. Developer using forged documents. Local chapters asking for support. How many riders can we mobilize? 50, maybe 60? Reaper nodded. "Do it, and get Jennifer on the legal side. This is what we do now, brothers. This is who we are." Phoenix leaned close to Ghost. "Never imagined putting on this patch would mean protecting people instead of scaring them. Feels better though, doesn't it?" "Yeah. Feels like I finally understand what the patch means." Back in Millbrook Valley, the transformation was complete. The town that had once whispered about the dangerous bikers now celebrated them. The mayor had declared Angels Day an official holiday. Coffee shops displayed photos of Reaper and the brothers standing with the Colemans. Children drew pictures of motorcycles with angel wings. Maria Santos approached Walter at the grocery store, pressing an envelope into his hands.
"From the community, we raised another $15,000 for the fund. Keep fighting for families like us."
That afternoon, a film crew arrived. A documentary team had been following the story for months. The director, a woman named Rachel Torres, whose own grandmother had lost her home to foreclosure years earlier, wanted the Coleman's blessing for the final cut. They watched it together in the living room. The footage was powerful. Bulldozers advancing, bikers forming their human wall, Esther's stroke, the trial, the victory. But what hit hardest were the interviews with other families the fund had helped. A single mother in tears thanking the angels. An elderly veteran saluting Reaper. A community rallying around strangers because they'd learned that's what decent people do. "You're going to win awards," Walter said quietly. "This is important work." "It's your work," Rachel replied. "I'm just showing the world what you started." The documentary premiered at Sundance 2 months later, It won the Audience Award and Best Documentary. Rachel dedicated it to Walter and Esther Coleman and to the Hells Angels, who proved that heroes don't always wear capes. The night of the premiere, Reaper's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Marcus Stone? Yeah, who's this? Senator Patricia Morrison, used to be governor. I'm in D.C. now, and I wanted you to know. The Coleman Protection Act just passed committee. Full Senate vote next week. It's going to pass, Marcus. Federal law protecting homeowners from predatory foreclosure, named after the couple you saved. Reaper sat down hard. Senator, we just did what was right. Exactly. And because you did, thousands of families won't have to fight the fights the Colemans fought. That's legacy, Marcus. That's impact. When he told his brothers, the clubhouse erupted. Phoenix actually cried. Bulldozer bear-hugged everyone in reach. Ghost stared at the wooden cross Esther had given Reaper, now mounted on the wall, and whispered, Mama, we did it. We finally did something that matters. 3 weeks later, the Coleman Protection Act became federal law. The signing ceremony in Washington included Walter and Esther as guests of honor. Reaper and 6 of his brothers attended in full patches, standing behind the president as he signed. The president turned to shake Reaper's hand. Mr. Stone, the country owes you a debt of gratitude. You reminded us what citizenship looks like. Sir, with respect, we just didn't want to see good people get crushed. That's exactly what citizenship looks like. The photo of the president shaking hands with the Hells Angels president went viral. Conservative and liberal media both ran it. The caption that spread fastest, "Real patriots wear leather." Back home, life settled into a new rhythm. The fund operated smoothly, helping 2 to 3 families per week. Legal precedents were being set. Developers were being prosecuted. The system was slowly, painfully, learning to protect people instead of profit. Esther's health had stabilized completely. She walked with a cane now instead of using the wheelchair, her speech clear, her spirit unbreakable. Dr. Sarah Kim credited the reduction in stress more than any medical intervention. When you're fighting for survival every day, Sarah explained to a medical journal interviewing her, your body never heals. The Colemans didn't just win their house, they won peace. And peace is the best medicine there is. On a Tuesday in October, exactly 1 year after the standoff, the town threw a celebration. Not just for the Colemans, but for everyone who'd stood together. The party filled the entire street, hundreds of people, music and food and laughter. The mayor presented Walter and Esther with a key to the city. You showed us what courage looks like, what love looks like, what community should look like. Walter took the microphone, Esther beside him. A year ago, my wife and I thought we were alone. We thought nobody cared about 2 old people who'd outlived their usefulness to society. We were wrong. His voice strengthened. Marcus Stone and the Hells Angels cared. Our community cared. Strangers across this country cared. And because they cared, 19 other families still have their homes. Because they cared, we have new laws protecting the vulnerable. Because they cared, my wife is standing here alive instead of dead in some hospital bed. He turned to where Reaper stood with his brothers. Marcus, Phoenix, Bulldozer, Ghost, Hammer, all of you, come up here. The bikers approached reluctantly. Reaper started to protest, but Walter cut him off. No, son, you don't get to hide in the back anymore. You're heroes. Say it with me, everyone. These men are heroes. The crowd took up the chant.
Heroes! 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 Bulldozer wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Phoenix put his arm around Ghost, who was openly weeping. Reaper looked at Esther, this woman they'd saved, this woman who'd saved them right back by giving them purpose. And he understood, finally, what the patches on their backs had always meant. Family. Protection. Standing up, when standing up, costs everything. That night, after the crowds dispersed, Reaper got the call he'd been half expecting. A family in Oregon, same situation, developer moving in, elderly couple with nowhere to go. He called his brothers. "We ride at dawn." "Oregon's 2,000 miles, Prez," Phoenix said. "Then we better get moving." Bulldozer laughed. "Just like old times." "No," Reaper corrected. "Better than old times. Now we know what we're riding for." Before they left, Reaper visited the Colemans one last time.
Walter and Esther sat on their porch, the house behind them solid and warm, and theirs. "Heading out again?" Walter asked.
"Yes, sir. Family in Oregon needs help."
"You be careful, Marcus, and thank you for everything."
"Sir, I should be thanking you. Before all this, we were just guys on bikes. You gave us meaning." Esther stood, walking over without her cane, stronger every day. She hugged Reaper tight.
"You had meaning all along, son. You just needed someone to show you where to look for it."
As the bikes fired up in the driveway, Walter and Esther watched from the porch. They'd become a symbol. These two people who'd refused to be moved, who'd shown a community what standing up looked like. But they were also just a couple in love, grateful for every extra day together, every sunrise from the porch they'd defended. "Think they'll save that family?" Esther asked.
"I know they will."
The engines roared, chrome catching the moonlight,
and as the hellsangels rode into the darkness toward Oregon, toward another family that needed them, toward another fight worth fighting, the sound echoed across the valley like a promise being kept. At the clubhouse the next morning, a reporter from the national news showed up asking for an interview about the movement. Hammer, filling in as acting president while Reaper was on the road, faced the cameras. "You want to know what we're about?" Hammer said. "We're about protecting people who can't protect themselves. We're about standing between the powerful and the powerless. We're about proving that brotherhood means something more than just riding together. It means fighting together, for what's right, for what's just, for people who deserve dignity and respect, and a home to die in when their time comes." The interview went viral. Within a week, 12 new chapters had contacted the national organization asking to join BAPF. The movement was growing, spreading, becoming something bigger than any of them had imagined.
Ghost called Reaper on the road. "Prez, my daughter asked if she could come to the clubhouse, wants to meet the brothers, says she's proud of what we're doing." Reaper grinned. "Bring her by when we get back. Let her see what real family looks like." In Washington, Senator Morrison introduced companion legislation, the Angel Protection Fund, federal money to help communities fight predatory development. It had bipartisan support, unheard of in the current climate. But nobody wanted to be seen opposing the bikers who'd become America's unlikely heroes. A full year and a half after the standoff, Reaper stood at a veterans rally in D.C. They'd asked him to speak, and he'd agreed only because Walter had called personally and insisted. "I'm a biker," Reaper told the crowd of thousands. "Society taught you to fear me, to cross the street when you saw my patches,
To assume I was a criminal, a threat, dangerous."
He paused. But when an old veteran needed help, when his disabled wife faced being dragged from her home, we showed up. Not because we wanted credit, not because we wanted to change our image.
We showed up because it was right. His voice rose. And if we can stand up for what's right, so can you. Every single one of you. When you see wrong being done, when you see the powerful crushing the powerless, when you see injustice masquerading as law, stand up, link arms, refuse to move. Because that's what Walter and Esther Coleman taught us. That's what America is supposed to be. Not the side with the most money or the best lawyers. The side that refuses to let cruelty win. The applause was deafening. That night, Reaper called Walter from his hotel room. "Sir, I think we actually changed something. Not just laws or policies. We changed how people see each other." Walter's voice was warm. "You changed how you see yourself, Marcus. That's what matters most." 2 years after the standoff, the documentary won an Oscar. Rachel Torres held up the golden statue and said, "This is for Walter and Esther Coleman, for the hellsangels who showed us what heroism really looks like, and for every family still fighting to keep their homes. Don't give up. The angels are watching. The angels will come." Back in Millbrook Valley, the Colemans watched the ceremony on their new television, surrounded by friends and neighbors and the community that had transformed from indifferent to fiercely protective. When Rachel mentioned their names, the living room erupted in cheers. Esther squeezed Walter's hand. "We did it, old man. We actually did it." "No, sweetheart. We survived it. Those boys in leather, they're the ones doing it. Over and over, every family they help." At that exact moment, 90 miles away, Reaper sat in the clubhouse, looking at the wooden cross on the wall. Around him, his brothers planned their next mission, a family in Mississippi, a corrupt developer. A story they'd heard before, but would fight again, because that's who they'd become. Phoenix walked over. "You think it'll ever end, Press? The fighting?" "I hope not," Reaper said, "because the day we stop fighting is the day we stop mattering." "We matter now, though, don't we?" "Yeah, brother. We finally matter." The engines would roar again tomorrow. More families would call. More corrupt developers would learn that crushing the powerless came with consequences. More communities would discover that angels don't always descend from heaven. Sometimes they arrive on Harleys, leather-clad and road-worn, carrying nothing but conviction and the refusal to let cruelty win. Walter and Esther Coleman lived another 8 years in the house they'd defended, surrounded by love and respect and the knowledge that their stand had mattered. When Esther finally passed peacefully in her sleep at 84, Walter beside her, 300 bikers attended her funeral. When Walter followed 6 months later, they came again, forming an honor guard that stretched for miles. The Hells Angels Justice Fund continued long after both Colemans were gone, helping hundreds of families, changing thousands of lives, proving over and over that brotherhood means protecting those who need it most. And on a clear Tuesday morning, when a desperate call came in from a family facing illegal eviction, the answer was always the same. "Don't worry. The angels are coming. And we never back down."